My vision, my mission is to provide access to affordable, healthier foods in urban communities. That is a simple statement, right? I know what I want to accomplish, but as an entrepreneur, if I was focused on, I want to make $1 million, I'm not going to ever make $1 million because I'm focused on making $1 million, not focused on the actual, the solution that you're trying to provide, right?
Hey, what's up, good people? Welcome to the City Entrepreneur Show, a talk show that highlights up-and-coming local legends and founders who dare to take a chance on their vision, even when the odds are stacked against them. I am your host, Zeke Wanganga, and today I am excited, as always, to have just a wonderful guest. I've been just inspired by his work for so long. He has been featured on the Business Journal, the Kansas City Business Journal, Startland News, Kansas City Star, Retail Technology Innovation Hub, among many others. He is the owner of Community Grocery Store, the first walkout grocery store in Kansas City to house the latest and greatest technology from Amazon. Please help me make welcome Kortney Lee. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you here. How you doing?
Living my best life. I have no complaints.
Yeah. How are you finding the weather outside?
Cold.
Yeah.
But I'm cold all the time. I don't care if it's 70 degrees outside. I'm still cold.
Me and you have the same, because I'm Nigerian, so I never do cold at all. So I'm always fully clothed, like you can see, all the time.
And not sweat at all. That's the beauty of it.
But let people know a little bit more about you. Give us a little background. How did it all start? How did you get into being an entrepreneur? How did this whole community grocery store start? Where did it start at?
So, fun fact is that I did not want to be a business owner nor an entrepreneur.
Okay.
My life goals was neither of those. The direction that my life has taken over the years is different because my background's in software engineering. And so as a software developer, test engineer to be exact, it's always been behind the scenes, writing the code, managing it, making sure the systems work and all that good stuff. As far as me being an entrepreneur, that was thrown up on me because my God told me to do it, and so I did it.
Yes.
But I mean, you just gotta listen, right? So, give you a long story short, back in 2015, what ended up happening was I was sitting at work, and I managed risk all the time. Software has a lot of risk, period. You want to make sure that the app works, because the app don't work, customers can't use it.
True.
Customers can't use it, can't get paid. I mean, it's just law of physics, right?
True.
And so what ends up happening was I'm sitting here and I'm at work and I'm like, okay, I want to do something. I don't know what I want to do. Nobody knows what they want to do. And so I decided to take a first step. And that first step was actually to start a vending machine business.
Okay.
That vending machine business I did very well with. I ended up getting awarded all of the YMCAs in the Kansas City metropolitan area.
Wow.
Several schools, and then I was awarded the citywide contract of the city of Kansas City for all of its vending services. And that was back in 2018, 2019. And so as I was growing this passively, because I'm still working, I just decided to hire people that were a lot smarter than me to do the job. And while I sat back and just wrote the checks. Well, a turn happened during COVID. So right before COVID, I ended up actually leasing out this building that's down the street from where we're at. It was a warehouse.
Okay.
I decided to make it open to the public because I had the product in there, and the product that's in there, it was similar to what I was selling in the vending machine. So I just said, okay, I'm just going to open up the doors and, here you go.
Yeah.
General public. As that constantly evolved, it was a struggle because, one, you have to manage product, and you have to manage people, and you have to manage technology. I opened prematurely. And what ended up happening is that I ended up with 8 pallets of food that I had to get rid of, and I had no POS system. And so I scrambled around trying to figure this. But before then, back in 2020, March of 2020, Amazon announced that they will be allowing the general public access to the technology. And so I was trying to figure out how to get that technology. Little did I know, I was still trying to figure out how to get that technology. How does it work? How does it get installed? So I did everything I could, all the research I possibly could do to figure out where the technology is. And it also included me actually traveling out of the state to go where a place where they have the technology.
Yeah.
One of them being in Dallas Airport, Dallas Love Field, if I remember correctly. Hudson News has it. And so I was like, cool, this is a cool experience. But how does this work at a larger scale, right? I got retail space. That's great. I got product. That's great, right? Yeah. So how do I get it installed? And then that's where the journey begun. I needed to keep my team members employed, so I made it a grocery store. Now, little did I know that the direction that I was going with this was not the direction that I was geared towards. And so as I'm navigating these waters, trying to figure out who to work with Amazon's team and who to work with on my team to figure out how to install this technology. This is one of the most complex projects I ever worked on my whole life. And it wasn't a easy battle, right? Because you have multiple roles and multiple hats that you have to wear. One, you're the owner. Well, what does that mean? It means you just sign the checks and and do all the paperwork, right? Yeah. But that's little. That literally is about 5% of my capacity throughout a given year. That was very minor. Then you have general contractor work. How do you get this technology installed? How do you get it implemented? How do you actually adhere to the requirements that Amazon put in front of you? What do you need to do? And then you start going through that behavior, right? So long story short, it took about 2 years for us to get the plans from Amazon to actually get it executed. Wow. And so 2 years of the back and forth is where we were, right? Because it's a large scope of work. I mean, when you think about how people move and how people shop and how things just work together, and this is the Internet of Things. And when you think about the Internet of Things, most people are like, what is the Internet of Things? The Internet of Things is when you take hardware and software and you bring them together to make the experience better. Yes. And so that's what we did. And it was very difficult in the process, working with electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, software engineers, all across the board. I don't think there's one team and a conglomerate that's on the Just Walk outside that I have not talked to with Amazon. Wow. Like one call had like 75 people. I was like, wait, who are all these people?
Wow. So tell me this. I know that there's definitely a time when you thought it wasn't going to happen. Like for 2 years, there had to be some times you were like, this is not going to happen. What were those times and how were you able to pivot from those times?
So for 2 years, every single time there was either change order, stop order, or some type of order that stopped the project from moving forward. Yes, there was a lot of times in this process that I was just wanting to throw it in the towel and just say, forget this, I'm out, right? But it's during those times is when you push through, because in order for you to achieve your purpose and your mission, right, you don't want to start a project without completing it because you don't know what the outcome's going to be, right? And so I focused on the outcome, focused on exactly how to keep this project moving forward in order for me not to lose my mind, right? It took a lot of resources. I bootstrapped this whole project with my own pocketbook, but it wasn't that much effort, because once you have a 30-minute call on a Wednesday or 30-minute call on a Saturday, it becomes easy, right? Because you have those conversations and you have the spec documents, right? It's just up to you to make sure that you actually get it done. So when we closed in April of last year, I was gung-ho. I was thinking that we were going to get the project done by August. Well, at first, at the beginning of last year, I thought we were going to be done by May, but that kept sliding. And so we didn't get it done until December. There's a lot of learning curves, right? One of the learning curves that we actually found out was we're the first grocer in the country that has this technology that's not an Amazon grocer. And so what that means is you have Amazon Fresh, you have Whole Foods, and you have Amazon Go stores. We're the first grocer in the country to have it. Wow. And so when you think about how that happens, don't know. Little old corner store in Crossroads and literal somewhere in the middle of nowhere of Kansas City, right? We were able to execute it. And so this particular site is what I call my alpha site, my test site. And there's a lot of other words that I can use to call this site. So this allows me to figure out exactly what I can do and how to make the experience better, right? When you think about purchasing product, well, there's no wait. So you can't just go in there and buy a bag of 5 pounds of apples because we can't wait anything. Well, how does that work? I need apples. Well, there's a solution to it now because we're able to figure out how to still provide those same ingredients without you having to wait in a long line. If you would just go to a regular grocery store and get one apple, you'd be frustrated because you got to go to the register to get to have it wait, to pay a couple of cents or $1 and then leave. You can't do that. But at our experience, you can do that. And you don't have to wait. There's no line. Same way with eggs, milk, bread, right? You don't have to do those things because the way that we have broken everything down, it costs the consumer hardly anything. It's all about averages. So, for example, bananas are like 19 cents to 29 cents, depending on if it's organic or if it's just a regular banana, right? Or natural banana. If it's an apple, right? There's different variations of apples. You have Honey Crisp, you have Fuji, you have so many variations. You have green apples, you have yellow apples. It just depends on what type of apple, right? And we're able to house all of those same products, but we're able to give them to the consumer at literally pennies on the dollar because the way the technology works with the experience. And you don't have to come in and just say, oh, wait, I have to wait for that. I can just go in there and pick that up. Seriously? Yes, you sure can.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there. I was fascinated. Just walking around, just picking stuff up. And one thing I learned is, if you pick it up, you got to keep it back where you brought it because the whole tech is working.
Yeah, you just have to put it back down on the weighted shelf.
On the weighted shelf, okay. Okay.
And so as long as it's a shelf, and what we mean by weighted shelf, because we don't weigh anything, it's that the way the technology works is it doesn't know who you are because it doesn't care about who you are. It only cares about what you have. And that's one of the things that we have to make sure that we're clear about is that when the experience comes, because it's overwhelming. I'm not gonna lie. You go in there and you see hundreds of cameras, it becomes very mind-blowing, like you're in a spaceship, right? This is the only location in the country that actually has a bird's eye view of all the technology. So there's some stairs that you can go up. There's some bi-directional gates that we'll be testing out in the upcoming weeks that will allow you to go upstairs and you can actually look down and see all the technology and how it's assembled, right? Don't let that scare you because it doesn't care who you are. It has no idea who you are. To you, the system is just you, right? It's different because when you think about Amazon One, and we encourage people to sign up for Amazon One so you can leave your wallet at home.
Just walk in.
Yes, that is correct. Now, if you're a mother and you have 4 kids hanging off your arm and you're trying to dig through your purse at the grocery store trying to get something out, right? It's almost impossible. But what's one thing that you always have available? Well, the palm of your hand, right? You have some way of recognizing the palm of your hand. And so that's where this Amazon One technology comes in. It makes it more convenient because the long term is hopefully we'll get Amazon One in most retailers across the country. But what it is, it allows consumers just to come in and not have to worry about digging through their bag. They either have debit or credit or debit. It's all right there. And you can just leave it. And it's just one seamless experience.
Wow. Dang. I feel like I'm in some kind of space movie right now. I'm like in the future, like you just scan it and then you buy and go forward. I heard you say something about bootstrapping. So Amazon doesn't pay for the locations. You buy the technology from them and you have to raise funds. Is that what I'm hearing?
Bootstrapping means that so you have different levels of investors, right? You have bootstrappers, which are me. Those are people who pulls the money out of their 401k or, can't pull it out of my 401k, unfortunately, but over leverage, right? Use the equity in my home, do things like that in order for me to actually get the project done. That's what bootstrapping in its entirety is. The investor, how much capital does it cost to come up front out of pocket to get this project moving forward, right? Then you have angel investors, right? You hear that all the time. Those are just silent investors, pretty much ones that, hey, I want to invest in something, but I don't want to invest a lot, but I don't want you to know that I'm an angel investor, so I'm just going to give you a little, right? Finding those are different, right? And then you have lead investors and a whole bunch of other type of investment type of terms that are out there, right? Well, bootstrapping is when it's the individual who wants to get something done to get it done. So as an entrepreneur, which I'm technically not an entrepreneur because I will say I didn't want to be an entrepreneur and I probably won't use those terms, right? But as somebody that wanted to complete a project, right, you have to be able to come up with the revenues in order to do it, right? And so, 12 years almost in software engineering, God's blessed me, very nice. And so I was able to save a lot of that. And that's how I was able to get this project executed. Now, this is just the first phase because we have the alpha site. The beta site will be opening sometime in April. And the beta site is everything that experience offers, but it's also 5 times larger than this location.
So are you looking for investors now? Or are you still bootstrapping?
No. We'll talk about investors when the time comes, right? But as far as right now, it's still being bootstrapped because it's easy for me to actually get the work done without red tape. When you add more people into it, you have more red tape. And here's a great example, right? So say I had an investor that came in and the investor says has 40% stake, right? How much mobility do you have to actually make changes on the fly? Because everything out that you have to send out, right? You have to call somebody. You have to do something.
Yeah.
You have to let them know where the money's going, right? If I get a phone call that says, hey, we need to install this row of Unistrut and we need these things moved over here, it's going to cost you $3,500. That means I have to call somebody and tell them that I'm about to spend $3,500. Don't have time for that. I'd rather just get the work done and then keep it moving.
Keep it moving.
Yes, because here's the best part about it. So because I wear multiple hats, I'm able to execute the work myself. It's not like that. It's funny. I literally built that store with my bare hands. So the shelves that you see in there, the exact dimensions that are exact specification to Amazon, I did physically myself. There's a lot of stuff that Amazon's team came in and did, right? But when you talk about the grid that the cameras hang on to, I had to construct that. I had to create the grid plane. I have to go through the mechanical engineering and plumbing, all that stuff, right? I had to submit permits to the city. All those things I had to do. I was also the general contractor who was up there shimmying on a ladder at 21 feet in the air.
Dang.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
It wasn't an easy battle, but when you think about cost efficiency, right, and you think about managing effort and workload, because here's the thing. Go find me a contractor that knows how to build a grid that cameras mount to. That is almost impossible because it's new. So you have to do it. So you work with load engineers, structural engineers, mechanical engineers, and you figure out a way to do it, right? They tell you exactly how much sway you need to have, how many units you need to have, how many pieces of all thread you need, and then you get it done, right? Everything is down to the spec. And so that's what I had to do, because there was nobody when I first started this project. I went out there and I was like, okay, I need somebody to come in here and build me this Unistrut grid.
No one can do that.
No, trying to find somebody, I found a lot of people to create it, like just create a floor plan. I was like, I don't need a floor plan. I need the actual grid itself.
Okay.
And so how do you do that, right? When you have somebody come in and it's a very tight space, and then you have to figure out how to configure the space to work with the technology. And so you need a cosmetic wall built. Well, how do you do that? You need to figure out where to get power from, right? You need to figure out a lot of things. And all those things that you have to figure out, if I had somebody telling me with more red tape, I don't think I would ever got it done. And that's why it was bootstrapped.
Because you keep saying you didn't want to be an entrepreneur. Everything you're saying really lines up in entrepreneur. Finding solutions where there are no solutions. Bringing new things into the market. Like literally you are an example of what entrepreneurship is.
Yeah, by definition. But I'm not, because I'm not the one that wanted to do it. I woke up one day and I didn't want to be a business owner. I don't want to be a boss. I don't want to employ 38 employees. I don't want to do any of that. Those things happened. When you're pushed into a position, you have to maintain that position, because it wasn't something that I just said, hey, you know what? I was comfortable. I mean, I was good, right? Well, I don't wake up and say, oh, I just want to be an entrepreneur today. I mean, because those are the things that drive you, right? There's a scripture that always runs through the top of my head, and it goes, what is it? As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, right? As I think about that, I'm always in the through part of that phrase, because I'm walking through a lot of things that are unknown. The things that are unknown, the things that scare people away. There's people that just won't do it, right? Because it's still a hypothetical, right? Mm-hmm. The hypothetical is this. You started all of this and it fails. Nobody buys into the technology, right? But how do you get people to buy into the technology? Because no matter what it is, people have to buy into it, right? When the iPhone first came out, well, what did that do?
Yeah.
It was a new concept, but it wasn't a new concept because you had the G6 that came out right before it. And that was Google's version of Android. Except for people don't remember that.
Because of the Apple.
Yes. Because of Apple, right? Apple came out with this iPhone that says we have the App Store, right? And it became an evolution. They released it with 100 software companies, 100 companies got into the App Store first. And those are the things that we don't remember. Now you go through the App Store, there's 5+ million apps in there, and there's competition. It's a nice market, right? Think about this in the same manifold is that we have thousands of organizations out there that sells groceries. Just in our region alone, there's 1,500. If we take that, right, and we think about one more, that means I'm just 1,501, right? It doesn't mean anything to the consumer because the consumer's still going to continue to go shop where they're shopping, right? If you go to Walmart every Thursday, you're going to continue to go to Walmart every Thursday. How do you change those habits and those patterns, right? Well, you don't. You add an alternative. The alternative is convenience and experience. The alternative is also something cheaper that you know that you can't get somewhere else at the same amount of execution time. What I mean by execution time is how long does it take me to run in there and grab it and leave, right? And how come I can't just run in there, grab that one thing, and then just leave? Well, when you think about you can't run in there and grab that one thing, is because you walk by everything else. And when you walk by everything else, especially when you have a hungry and you're hungry, don't ever go to the grocery store hungry. It's a bad idea.
There's so much at you coming at you left and right.
Because you end up overspending. But when you walk in there and you grab what you want and grab what you need, you come out with more because you're like, I don't want to come back here tomorrow, right?
Boom.
Here is, I want to go back tomorrow. And it's just changing because I just needed that one thing. That one thing cost me 60 cents. I'll go there every day if it only going to cost me 60 cents and it saves me a trip somewhere else, right? Yes. I don't have to go out there and buy in bulk. And we think about generation shifts and generation changes, right? We think about what's happening. More consumers don't cook now, right? Because why?
Delivery is going on. Everything is online. Click.
Everything is available, right? Consumers don't. They have everything accessible from the palm of their hand thanks to the App Store, right? The App Store allows for Grubhub and Uber Eats and Instacart and the 100 other apps that is in the same service industry. And so when you think about what's on there, that makes it more convenient. So I don't really never have to go to the grocery store because I can actually pick it up all here. But there's one problem that it occurs. I get it, but it may be wrong. It may be right. It may be accurate. It may not be accurate. You don't know what the consumer is doing on the other end, right? So when you think about if you're germaphobe, for example, I mean, everybody watches everything. Hopefully everybody watches everything, right? I wanted lettuce. So I decided to go on to Instacart and order a lettuce because this lettuce here on Instacart, I just grabbed it, right? Problem is when I get it, it already may be bad. Now I have to physically go to the store to exchange it. Or they may substitute something, right? Or I ask for organic and they don't give it. There's a lot of variables in there that you don't see, but consumers are willing to embrace it because they don't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? But that experience is not going to change for anybody. What I target is the consumer in this way. I know your intent when you go to the grocery store to purchase a salad. It's going to be a gourmet salad. I know that it's going to cost you $40 because, well, average of 40, because you're going to buy the head of lettuce. You're going to get your croutons. You're going to get your tomatoes. You're going to get your cheese, dressing. You don't even check your kitchen cabinet to see what you have. You just go, right? And that gourmet salad becomes a very expensive salad. You go home and you're like, okay, I'm about to make this. And you're like, no, I don't feel like it now. So you make it the next day, right? Well, it's in bulk. When you buy cheese, it's in a big bag, right? You buy the lettuce, it's in a big bag, right? You go to the salad bar, you're like, oh, I don't know about that. That looks questionable, right? And so you're like, okay, I really want to eat this. Because consumers, right, my intent was that I was going to eat healthier for a whole week, so I was going to buy all this salad. Once I fulfilled that intent one time, I throw 90% of those ingredients in the trash because my intent's away.
Yeah.
It's already fulfilled.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And so why do we do that? Who knows, right? So what I decided to do is break everything by the serving down by how you average this pounds out to the actual cent, right? So a gourmet salad at a Community Groceries is not going to cost you that much because I'm going to give you exactly what you need and all the ingredients you need, and you don't have to worry about multiple people touching it because it's not going to happen. And then you also don't have to worry about picking it up off the salad bar because that's not going to happen because we don't have one, right?
Yeah.
But we have the ingredients that you need all the way down to the cents. So that makes more sense, ironically, to do that because you can break those down. So if you need it, we're not breaking it down like one leaf of lettuce. That's just too insane, right? But if you need a quarter, 1/4 of a cup or a half a cup or a half a pound or 6 ounces, all of those variations and combinations are available. And so they're already rinsed, washed, and cleaned. And all you have to do is just pick them up. And we put them in reusable containers so that everybody else can still say we're green, right? And then that way you can come in and grab it, right?
Exactly.
Cheese, you don't have to come in, but that target is here when you think about the urban core. The average family size down here in the urban core and the average age down here in the urban core, right? It goes in 2 phases from 18 to 31. We'll eat out.
Wow. Okay. So here's another thing because I'm glad you mentioned salad because I was going to go more because I see that in the stores, it's more healthy products are in there. Is that intentional, and why? And why do you have more healthy stuff in there? What is the reason?
Because eating healthy is not convenient. That's why.
Yeah. Okay.
We make it convenient. Literally, eating healthy is not convenient. So when you think about making a salad, you do it on meal prep. Eating throughout the week, you have to plan. Most people don't have time to plan. Most people don't have time to actually sit down and write out on their journal what they're going to need. When you think about the traditional grocery store experience, you go in there and purchase about 20% that's fresh stuff, and then 80% is just junk food, right? If you have kids, you pretty much live in the snack aisle. The snack and the juice aisle is where your best friend is. And then when you think about like what meals you're going to go, you always go to the freezer section to get frozen meals. And it's always something that's easy to make, easy to do, right?
Yeah.
But those items aren't always convenient, right? And so when you think about health first, well, how's health not convenient? Well, I know if I wanted to eat baked chicken, mashed potatoes, I got to plan it because I got to bake the chicken and I got to cook the potatoes. And then I got to figure out how many servings I want to make, right? So if I go to Sam's and grab a big thing of chicken, well, there's like 50 chicken breasts in that thing. I don't know what I'm going to do with 50 chicken breasts. I'm just going to cook like all of them because I'm thinking that I'm going to cook all of them and then I'll eat them throughout the week. What ends up happening is I do cook all of them, but I end up throwing them all away because, except for the ones I eat, because I made too much. We don't eat leftovers. If we cooked it and then put them in individual containers and said that we're going to be intentional and eat this right throughout the week, we can have multiple meals, but we don't do that. Our taste buds don't change. And you think about eating chocolate cake. And that's my best phrase for it. Everybody loves chocolate cake. Well, I think everybody loves chocolate cake. But if you eat chocolate cake for 30 days, you're going to hate chocolate cake.
True.
It's just the reality behind it, right? When you think about eating the same thing over and over, you get burnt out. That's why we have it to where we have so many diversity of things that you can eat. But when it comes to healthier options, right, like just a salad that has what I want on it, or when it comes to just grabbing nuts and berries or just something that's light enough to carry me over that's healthier for me, where can I find that, right? How can I do it? Well, right now, in essence, you have to go measure everything out by the pound. You have to go figure out when to eat it, when to prep it, and it becomes very frustrating.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, I mean, cut a pineapple. That sucks.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time to cut a pineapple. I would just eat an apple just because it's whole than a pineapple because it's less stress. You just eat it and then you're gone. On a personal level, I want to ask you this though, because I know that like even though you say you don't want to be an entrepreneur, you are an entrepreneur. And us entrepreneurs, we have those times when we feel like we don't want to keep going. What happened those times when you felt like you want to quit? And how did you keep going?
I don't quit.
Yeah.
Literally. I do.
Yeah.
So the first step is take the first step. And the first step is to continue walking those steps. As an entrepreneur, and I'll use those terms, if I was an entrepreneur, you cannot give up on the goal that was placed, because the second that you give up on the goal that you started, you'll never achieve what you want. The outcome won't be there. Everything's going to be hard. Nobody ever started off at the top.
True.
Everybody starts off somewhere at the bottom and then works their way up. But if your intent is to actually start at the top, then you have to change what your purpose and your value is, right? So when I say what my vision and my mission is, my vision and my mission is to provide access to affordable, healthier foods in urban communities. That is a simple statement, right? I know what I want to accomplish, but as an entrepreneur, if I was focused on, I want to make $1 million, I'm not going to ever make $1 million because I'm focused on making $1 million, not focused on the actual, the solution that you're trying to provide, right? When you focus on what you're trying to solve, it makes it a lot easier. So you keep trying to figure out how to evolve that, right? When I say provide access to affordable and healthier, that means that 29 cents bananas, 19-cent apples, you have to make it more affordable, right? Then you also have to make it more accessible. Accessible meaning put them in the community. Accessible also means putting it in a easier way to get in and get out without having to think about it. And those are the things that you have to keep in the back of your head. As an entrepreneur, the first step to continue is to continue, because the second that you give up is the second that you should have never started. And why start something you can't finish?
Word.
And it's just, unfortunately, it's the hard truth.
True.
If you're gonna do something, and God's purposed you to do that, right? Because everybody has talents. I don't care what it is. Unfortunately, I got too many jack of all trades and master of none.
Better more than none, right?
Yeah, because my background is very unique. I'm a history major. I write software code, have a master's in business. Don't ask me where and how each one of those aligns and how that path. It's just madness, I say, sheer madness. But when you have a direct path, it's a lot easier. My background is not very direct. It's not straightforward. Nobody would have told me that when I was finishing my basement back in 2014 that I would be using those same skill sets to build a grocery store. Nobody would ever told me that when I learned software engineering, those would be the same skill sets to build my website. Nobody would ever told me that when I got my business, when I got my MBA, that was the catalyst to help me understand metrics and numbers and data and information on how other organizations operate and what value of market and market cap and market size and market segments, right? That allowed me to execute on the business plan, right? Those things you just don't know. When my favorite is when somebody told me that I got a history degree. Well, the best part about that one is that I get to see a full scope of exactly how mankind has evolved all the way up to the date that I graduated, because I gave up on history after I graduated. But it's the constant, right? When we had the revolution, the Revolutionary War, right? We had the Industrial Revolution. We had the Cold War. Those things in history were impactful throughout history. And we do not realize that, right? Because right now we're in a technological era. And so if those events didn't happen in the past, then we won't have what we have now. From Model T Ford all the way up to now the new Ford Lightning and it goes, right? And you see how it evolved, right? And we constantly should be doing the same thing as a society, right? There's a lot of industries that had to evolve, that were forced to evolve. When you think about how you purchased a car 20 years ago. It's different than what you purchase now. You could do it online now.
You just be home doing it.
You can go to kellybluebook.com and just go in and type in a couple of numbers. I say I want that test drive here at my house. Next thing you know, it's right there. And then you send you a link, and you sign the link, get your credit, get everything, you got the car, right? Those things are constantly evolutions. And how it started 20 years ago with Auto Trader and Cars.com, it was a magazine. You physically had to go to a dealership that you saw in the magazine or the classifieds. You showed up. The internet changed that. Technology changed that. So when you think about groceries, we're still going. But here's the problem. We're going to continue to go because of one reason. Is because we get to choose what we want. You do not normally scroll because people love to vision, touch, smell. You physically have to see what you're purchasing when it comes to perishables. Otherwise, you're likely not to purchase it. When you think about also food waste and a whole bunch of other components behind that, you physically have to see it. So if you are a meat eater, you really want to see the meat before you get it, right? Because you check it. You want to see the apple. You want to test it for its ripeness. You want to see the pineapple and everything else. And you want to look at to see if the leaves aren't green and slimy, right? You want to make sure that it's. So those things are constant evolutions, right? And so when you think about how we continue to evolve, we want to make it more convenient for people to evolve. Then you also have, well, what can my team be? Because everybody always asks me, well, if you have the technology, you don't need employees. No, that's not true.
You need people at the store.
You need people at the store in order to engage the customer to help their experience a lot more seamless.
And easier, I'm happy you kind of mentioned that things you've learned in the past helped you get to where you are, just because, for example, building my own studio, I didn't know that painting my room back when I was a teenager was going to help me paint my own studio. Like, you never know what you're going to use in the future as an entrepreneur. Just because you learn it doesn't mean you're going to throw it away. Even in school, like pitching to another person to invest in your business. You learn that by talking to other people in school. That being said, I want to move into so my next question to you is this. For community grocery stores, what are some struggles you're facing here in Kansas City?
The city. I'm serious. So when you open a grocery store from the ground up, right, there's a lot of stuff that actually has to happen. And so you have planning, city planning. But before you even get to city planning, you got to go through zoning. And there's so many hurdles and roadblocks, right, that you actually have to make sure that you do everything by the plan. That's been the biggest struggle, is because when you have this massive data set, and its data set is a CAD file, it's Revit, it's those CAD drawings, Revits. But when you have this, right, you have to have a framework, and those frameworks is blueprint. And most people don't know actually a blueprint now, what it looks like, but it was those big pieces of paper with those little white lines on a blue screen, right? Those were blueprints. Now we have sophisticated, now we can carry them on our tablets and everything, right? But you have to have those. Any project, you have to have those. Getting that soft cost done up front, and it's soft because it doesn't make you any money. You know you have to get it done in order for you to make money. And so that's the hurdles, right? So it's the back and forth with the city as far as the locations go, right? And then you also have the developers. You have the building developers. You have the property owners. You have so many people that wants to raise red flag. I give you a perspective, this scope. So when I got Crossroads done, so I stopped Crossroads back in June of last year to focus on the other location that we're opening, which is our beta site. This site is the actual site that is the one that is supposed to be. This has the full produce table. Everything's tested. Everything we know for sure works 100%. This is a test site more than anything. So we want to make sure that everything, before we bring that experience into this next phase, that it works 100%, right? June, I decided to say, okay, let's stop talking about this project over here and work on this project over here. Well, throughout this project, we get all the way to 95% done, and then I had a conversation and somebody told me they were 5% done. That means that for 7 months, you mean to tell me we didn't do anything?
5%.
And yes, and those were my architects were saying. They was like, we got to redo it all. And I was like, what do you mean? You already have hundreds of $1,000s invested into this.
Yes.
What do you mean? All right. And so, well, we have to work with this. We have to make sure that we get this over to the city. Well, finally, those plans get approved. Now you have permitting. You have a developer that's on the site, on the contract. This is a big developer. They tell you that you have to go back out and re-estimate everything because the original estimation was inaccurate. And so you're like, what? But I need to move this project forward. And then you're like, wait, you mean to tell me, here's the plans. You have to have everything re-estimated. Nothing changed, right? And you're like, yeah, we have to have everything re-estimated. Those type of things slow down projects, and those things hold up. So me being me, I say, okay, if you can't do it, then I'm going to do it. And if you can't figure it out in the timeline I gave you, then it will be done the day that I gave you the timeline. Because I'm not going to extend it. Every day delay it costs me thousands.
True.
When I closed in April last year, I lost $45,000 a month.
Wow. And
I tell everybody, you go without $45,000 a month in revenue when you needed it. I mean, bills need to be paid, rent needs to be paid, lease space needs to be paid, architects need to be paid, vendors need to be paid, everybody got to be paid. Right? And then you do it and you keep on your team members and you try to make sure that they still have employment because it's not their fault that you decide to close to do this project. You thought that the level of execution was going to be on, right? So I was able to keep them on.
The city, trying to get them to get their job done.
It's just hard. Those are the things in battles, but that's only when you come to a physical location, right? A physical retail space. Now, there are a lot of other things that are a lot easier to execute, but some of the struggles that we actually run into is a lot of the conversations. There's too many cooks in the kitchen, way too many, and you have to figure out which ones you want to fire. And you have to have a backbone to do it. And if you can't, then you're not going to survive.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the soft costs, you have no time for being weak. Oh, well, it's just we can give it a couple more weeks. Well, if it's costing you $2,000 a day and you keep saying that, well, after 2 weeks, you're at $14,000 or $24,000, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like,
or
28, I can't even add right now, 14 days times 2.
Yeah, don't let me do the math.
Yeah, it's $28,000. You lose $28,000.
Okay.
And I tell everybody, do you have $28,000 to just keep washing away? Every day, because you have construction loans, you have to get different things that need to be done on time and executed before you get paid, right? The way that I make my money is I make my money because I'm the general contractor. And so what I will pay a general contractor to do, I do. And so that's where that's how I make it easier, right? So if the general contractor wants $5,000 and I say, I'll just make those phone calls myself and I'll be the general contractor. If the project manager wants $10,000, I'll do that myself. That's how I'm able to save that,
time and money at the same time.
Because I do it, right? Except I physically don't get the check because I can't write myself the check because I'm not the one that's doing it. I have to write them a check, but my dividends come out later because I didn't have to spend as much on the scope of work. And those are the things that you struggle with. You struggle with a lot of decisions. I tell everybody this. In order to be successful, you need to make a decision. I don't care which one it is. It's either yes or no, move forward. Do not waste nobody's time with your indecisiveness. Make a decision. I don't care if it's a good one or if it's a bad one.
Keep it moving.
Make a decision. And we struggle with making decisions as business owners or as people in general, right? This is the same reason why we go to McDonald's and we know that we want the number one, but for some reason we get there. And every single time, right? You know that you're going to get the same thing.
True.
So why do you always, because you think that you're going to change it.
True.
And you never change it. People are the same. People are patterns, right?
Yeah.
You got to make the decision. First step is next time you go to fast food, this is what you do. Get what you always get so you don't hold up the line behind you.
That's what I do. I always get the same thing at Chipotle or anywhere I go. I get the same thing. I don't have to stress it.
I want to try this today. No, you don't.
Nah, anybody got time for that. Let me ask you this. This is probably going to be the second to last question. what is one thing you want to see happen in Kansas? What is one thing you want to see more in Kansas City? And the last question for you is, what is one advice you would give an entrepreneur out there as we're coming close to the end of the show?
One thing I want to see done in Kansas City. The city. It's the city. I want them to move the Royal Stadium over here to 18th and Vine area.
Yeah,
that would be my. But nah, that ain't gonna happen. Nobody would care about that, right?
Who knows? They might be from this show. They start thinking about it.
Yeah, that's what I want, right? Because that is opportunity for a community that we can get to encourage, regardless on if it's in East Village or if it's over here at the Vine District. It is encouraging. I think that if it's at the Vine District, it'll make more sense because we can build up a lot of development around that area, because that development around there is the lack of. We can bring a lot of things back to the city in that essence. We need to also, as far as the city, is focus on small businesses, because if you may have not known, Kansas City is one of the only cities in the country that did not give out any relief to small business owners. And so that put a lot of business owners in a very bind. When we think about how restaurants and food service businesses operated throughout COVID, you can't tell a business to shut down for almost a year and a half and expect them to be able to recover, because it's almost impossible. They accrue too much debt with the federal relief that was delimited of, but the cities themselves passed ordinance that prevented operations, especially when it came to social distancing, which we did not know what we don't know now, right? But in the same essence, it's you invested your whole livelihood as a business owner inside of this business, and then literally overnight it bubbled up. The things that we don't talk about, those type of things when it comes to entrepreneurship, is that we have roughly around 2/3 of businesses that are still struggling out there to recover
from the pandemic.
Yes, but we don't talk about those things because we think that everything is still going straight forward. We still think that everybody's moving because the doors are open. But they're not realizing that the business may have $1.5 million in debt, and they don't know who that debt's owed to. Just because you see customers don't mean that yes, that's nice that you see customers, but if it only cost me $500,000 to open my business, and then for some reason for 2 years I was shut down and I accrued $1.5 million in debt, I'm never going to be able to break even after that. All I have to do is just strive, right? And that's 2/3 of businesses right now. Yes, there's a lot of relief, but one thing that the city can do is to figure out a way to fund those businesses that did not get those reliefs, that did not qualify or did not have everything in order, because paperwork is 90% of a business owner's job. You need to make sure that your paperwork is done, because that's how you get those type of programs. But being a stylist, you have a style. You just have a shop, right? You didn't want to be a business owner. You just wanted to open a shop and do what you love to do. And that's what usually happens. But those paperwork that's supposed to be in alignment in there sometimes is not always right. So, and the second advice I'll give somebody is just make a decision. I don't care what it looks like.
Just do it.
Just make a
decision. Either yes or no. Just make it happen.
Quit sitting there wasting your time, wasting your energy, wasting your breath. Make a decision, because there's 4 things that we all do in life, and regardless, there's actually 5 things. But regardless on what those outcomes are, we're all make a decision. We're born, right? We all got to eat to survive. That's why I'm in groceries, because everybody got to eat.
I got to eat all the time too.
Yes, we all reproduce.
True.
What you try to reproduce with is different, but that's whoever it is, right? It's just nature, right? We all die.
True.
And
no one wants to hear that, but that's true.
Once you face that fear, you get over everything else. But we all die, right? And so those things are the 4 that I always talk about, that we always do, because those 4 components is what, once you realize that you have breath, which allows you to be alive, you're able to interact with people. When you eat, you have to sustain that to stay alive, right? And these are decisions that you have to make to stay alive. Do I eat or do I not eat? Because we have like 18,000 decisions that we make a day. Let's minimize that. Let's just make one decision.
Simple and short as possible.
Because you got to eat, right, to survive. And then the last thing is, in order to get life again, for people to breathe, we have to reproduce. And then at the end of the day, everybody dies. I don't care when it's time to go. You just face it. just gonna die.
Yeah.
So don't walk around scared.
Yeah.
Don't walk around in fear, because fear is a mind killer. Is going to be something that destroys you. If you just walk and do what you want to do, you'll be okay.
It will follow.
Yeah, because everything will fall into place. Because worst case possible scenario, and everybody asks, how do you not lose your sanity? Worst case is I'm dead.
Yeah.
I mean, what else?
Those are the facts. Those are the facts. You can't argue that.
Yeah. I mean, what happens with your debt? It dies with me.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. I feel like you're right on that. Like, a lot of people are scared of something that they don't even know are gonna happen or might not even happen. But if you just make a decision and keep going, things will fall in place.
That's it.
So what's last question? So you're building different locations. What is the goal for Kansas City? What is the goal you're expanding?
Enough to be in every pocket of a food desert.
Okay.
So most people don't know that Kansas City is a giant food desert. Pretty much every urban core in America is a food desert. Mm. And so I have multiple locations that are targeted out throughout the city that will help alleviate that food desert syndrome, right?
Okay.
Because you think about from literally right here at Crossroads, all the way over to Independence. If you go to the USDA and look at their food desert map, you'll see that the center of this core is a food desert.
Food desert, yeah.
And it's always a food desert. And so how do you resolve that problem? Well, you can't just constantly put up, the Dollar Tree, Save a Lot, the dollar stores, right? Because that doesn't necessarily align with the groceries proponent, right? Okay. You have to literally put little corner stores back in those type of communities so that they have access to exactly what they need, right? And then you do it and you wrap it around some beautiful technology and you give them a different experience and you make it more convenient, right? Because that's what we don't think about. It's like you think about there's no Walmart downtown.
True.
And so you have to always go out. There's no Target downtown. Mm-hmm. We have several locations, but it doesn't manage the population density.
It doesn't always have what you need anyway. So.
And it may not always have what you need, right? But that's also, you just need to make a decision on an alternative, because that's not my problem.
That makes sense.
But when you think about that, it's those type of things. You go into them because they don't have they're already low on their shelf space and their inventory because of supply and demand curve, right? You have limited supply, but you have a high demand, or you have a high supply and little demand, and then you're trying to figure exactly how to get the margins in the right to where you're not in the red, right? You don't want to lose $300,000 a year in grocery sales, right? You see all the time that grocery stores are closing. Well, why are they closing? Well, because sales revenue dropped, right? Because they cannot, the supply and demand curve hit its match, right? You don't want to lose $500,000 a year in revenue to pay $800,000 a year in payroll, and you don't want to throw away $1.5 million in product. So those are the things that we look at when you think about how this expands horizontally. So yes, in short, want to be a Community Groceries on every corner that makes sense.
Okay, cool. Well, I just want to say thank you for bringing that time to come on the City Entrepreneur Show. It's been a phenomenal time chatting with you. But how can people get in contact with you if they want to reach out to you, they want to come to the Community Grocery Store? Where are you located, and how can they reach out to you?
They can send us an email at support@snackingwell.com, or they can drop off at 640 East 18th Street and in April 3501 Truce.
Sweet. Thank you so much. And for those who are watching, thank you for tuning in today. You know what to do. Subscribe, like, share, let people know this is the Entrepreneur Show. And as I always say, stay fired up, don't give up, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye for now. To see how our city's entrepreneurs do what they do, tune in to City Entrepreneur on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Episodes drop every Thursday.